Good evening, everyone. We could ask everybody to bookmark your conversation, and you can pick it right up where you left off at the end of the program. So make sure you know who you were talking to and what you were saying. There will be a test at the end of the program. My name is Pamela Zappardino. I am a member of the Carroll Coalition of the Carroll County Coalition of the Maryland Lynching Memorial Project. And I'd like to welcome you here this evening for this gathering in remembrance of Townsend Cook, a young man who was taken from the building behind me, the county jail, and lynched 136 years ago this evening. And you will be hearing more of his story in just a couple of moments. But I would like to recognize people that are here tonight and some of our elected officials and others who took time to be with us this evening, and we're very grateful. I know Mayor Mona Becker of Westminster is here. Mona, where are you? Right over there. Is this your first official ceremonial act? Second, drat. Okay. And Sheriff DeWeese, I know you're here somewhere. There you are, Jim. Thank you, and thank you for your help with getting this together tonight. Captain Kowalczyk from the Westminster Police. Where are you, sir? There he is. Also very instrumental, along with Chief Ledwell. We not only have the captain, we have the chief, who is right out here. And the police have been, and the sheriff's office have been great in helping us to make sure this evening came together. So thank you very much. Commissioner Boucher is here. There he is in the wonderful white tie. Will Schwartz from the Maryland Lynching Memorial Project is with us. Thank you, Will, and thank you for all your support. Let's see, is Rodney Morris here from the president of the NAACP? There he is. Okay, brand new president, Rodney Morris of the Carroll County branch of the NAACP. So welcome, Rodney. Thank you for being here. Let's see, is there someone else that has come that... where is Dan? Dan Hoff is here, new on the city council. And we have former mayor and current city council member in Westminster, Kevin Dayhoff, who is also a member of the Carroll Coalition. So we thank you for being here. Anybody else that I don't have written down? Okay. Thank you all for being here. We have the drumming going, and we hope that it keeps the rain away until we are finished. So we are going to get started. As I said, we want to tell you a little bit more about Townsend Cook, who he was, and how he came to be in this jail, and what happened from that point on. And to do that, first I'm going to invite up Jack Del Nunzio, who is one of our co-chairs, and he is our historian. Did some work on local lynchings while a student at McDaniel College some number of years ago, did his senior capstone in this area, and now he is a graduate student. Or have you just graduated? Woo! That's something to be. Okay, a just former graduate student at American University in public history studying this same issue, and he has been a tremendous asset. So I'm going to let you introduce Diane.
Well, thank you again, everybody, for being here this evening. And as Pam said, yes, I am involved with the coalition as the research lead. and to tell us a little bit more about Townsend Cook, his lynching, and the aftermath of the lynching. I would like to welcome actually two members of the community, both Diane and Ava, who are going to be speaking to, again, the circumstances of the lynching a little bit more. So please give them your welcome.
I was sitting in my mother's home, and they came in the door. They grabbed me, took me out, and took me about 3 miles down the road to the Knox home. And they said, "Is this the man?" And this white lady said, "Yeah, that's him. I'd recognize him anywhere with that cut on his eye, on his right eye." I tried to tell them where I was and what I did, but they didn't believe me. And the crowd there, about 20 white people, they all said, lynch him here." They didn't lynch me. They took me to the jail. Guess about 12 o'clock, or something after 12 midnight, I heard this noise, all this commotion going on. And then I saw a man with crowbars and keys in his hands. And he came in and he pointed this pistol through the bars and he shot it. And the pistol ball went past my head and it found itself in the windowsill. They put a rope around my neck. I had on my pants and my shirt. I had on a vest and my coat and my hat, but I didn't have on any shoes. And I said, "I ain't got no shoes on." And the man said to me, "You don't need them where you're going." He pushed me out the door, and he put me in the wagon next to the driver. And then two men got in. First, they threw the crowbars in, and then they got in, and they grabbed the rope. And they rode out of town, and on the way out of town, they threw the mask off. About a half a mile down the road, they took me to the old Thomas Stevenson farm, and there was this big white oak tree. Some white man climbed up in the tree. He secured the rope, and as they were drawing me up, he shot down in the back of my head 2 times. They took my shirt, they tore it to parts, and they left it blowing in the wind. All I had on were my platoons. On the ground, there was my hat, my coat, my vest, and horse hoofs. All you could see were the hoofs from the horse. Then they pinned on the tree a note. It was handwritten. It said, "He confessed his crimes." Turned the note over. It was written on the letterhead of the law offices of Milton G. Erning of Frederick, ex-congressman of the 6th District. Later on, a crowd of people came and they saw me hanging. They cut my body down. They took the chain and the rope and the hitching strap. Then before you knew it, they took the rope. It was drenched in my blood. They took the rope and they cut it up and they gave it to the crowd as souvenirs. They threw my body on some straw and they drove me to the almshouse house. And then they said that the cause of death was hanging. My name is Townsend Cook. In 1885, I was 19 or 20 years old. I was taken out of jail by somewhere between 20 to 50 outraged men. They said I outraged a white woman. And they said that I must be made an example of. They had to protect their wives, their sisters, their daughters. I had no chance to defend myself. And now I'm speaking to you from an unmarked grave at the Almshouse Farm.
So, I have to be honest with each and every one of you. I struggled to try to explain the connection between the lynching of Townsend Cook and today's experience as a Black American. So I struggle with trying to explain the link, not because I don't have the words, but because I don't have the words to explain to the largest part of America what it's like to live the Black experience in the United States of America. It's hard to make sense of something that's so senseless within our community, within our country. For me, hearing about Townsend Cook feels like yesterday. It feels like I turned on the news or turned on my iPhone to the top stories of the day. And this murder of this Black man is way too familiar of a story within our communities today. For us as a people, the wounds are still unhealed, and they're still open. So just bear with me for a second, because I want to try to explain this in a way that makes some sense. I liken the Black community in the U.S. to The Matrix. And I don't know how many of you know the movie, right? So The Matrix was a movie starring Keanu Reeves, made in 1999. And it was the story of a dystopia, the opposite of a utopia. This story was about a very bad place to be. In the story, the human race is trapped in this simulated reality. And that reality is created to distract mankind from the truth. And the truth within that movie is that there were evil robots who were using human beings as an energy source for their day-to-day living. The reality within the Matrix was a diabolical deception. And some of its citizens, they lived the simulation and they died doing so. But there was a small group of people that we in today's world would call awoke, who fought the good fight because they wanted to bring the truth to light. So when I think of America for me, when I think of my community, I see it as sort of like the Matrix. In this country, not unlike the underworld of the Matrix, we live in a slightly simulated reality. We're flooded with images of Black America achieving these lofty goals, buying mansions, driving shiny cars, moving into neighborhoods that were sought after. And we're tempted to believe that this is a sign of the times, that Black America has progressed. What we don't realize, or what we don't always think about, is that things haven't really changed that much. Now, let me say that a little bit differently. As much as things have changed, things remain the same. While the gap between education for white and Black America gets smaller, the income disparity grows larger. 40% of Americans, African Americans, are under the poverty line. And if you consider that only 17% of white Americans would qualify for any welfare or housing assistance or government programs, you can see that disparity. When you look at education, you see that there really isn't that much of a gap between white America and Black America. And so I'm an accountant, so I'm going to give you a couple numbers. And I'm going to use 2018 as my point. 86% of Black America in 2018 had at least a high school diploma. And if we compare that or contrast that to white America, we'd see that it's estimated that 90% of white America had at least a high school diploma. 25% of Black America had bachelor degrees or higher, compared to the white communities where there was 35% of the population who had bachelor degrees and higher. And yet, the poverty rate for Black America was 21%, which is three times that of white America. So economically, things really haven't changed that much. Now let's talk about the social front from my perspective. I still hear stories from my male friends about them walking into elevators and having the single white woman grab her purse in fear. The word nigger is still being used publicly in our communities by white people referring to the Black population, and it's done unapologetically. There's still certain states and counties that I can't travel in safely. And the police, well, they're not a haven for safety, but sometimes a source of fear. So much so that most of my male friends tell me how they train their sons how to survive a routine police stop. From my perspective, socially and economically, the climate that we live in today isn't much better than it was 50 years ago. The difference is that the bigots of the world have now found legal ways to shoot us down in the streets rather than lynching us. We've become more educated, but there's less opportunity given to us. And somehow or another, we expect the laws to protect us. But they don't. The laws can't change the hearts of those who protect and serve the people. The laws can't change the hearts of those who adjudicate the law. And the laws can't change the hearts of those who represent us legally. The laws can't change the hearts of those who make decisions about our employment, our care, how we're treated, and how we're viewed as a people. And they don't address the motivations for those who discriminate and hate. The laws can't change fear. It doesn't address poor self-esteem. You know, those people who feel like they have to make you feel lower to make themselves feel better. It doesn't address the desire to maintain the status quo or to maintain power. It certainly does not address ignorance or family traditions or peer pressure. So given all of that, what can we do? How do we exploit that glitch that's in the matrix? Well, I say we speak our truth. We speak our truth so that those who are under the spell of the illusion created can see America the way that we see America. We speak our truth not only to our black friends, but to anyone who really wants to know, and even those who don't want to know. We soldier on knowing that this battle is long and it is tiresome, because truth is truly a light that cannot be hidden for long. And we acknowledge that the laws are a tool, and that tools cannot work unless the person using the tool knows how to use them in good conscience. For me, the source of change is the heart. And we have to work little by little, piece by piece, first to change ours, and then to change others. We speak our truth, and we stand unapologetic for shattering the illusion of equality and freedom and safety in America for Black Americans. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Diane and Ava. That was very powerful. Next, we would like to ask one of the young people in our community who made it here from Tawnytown, young Mr. Jordan Brooks.
Can you hear me? Yep. My name is Jordan Brooks. Good afternoon. And this would. There you go. This was a lynching that took place in 1885. So many people, and even the young people, could think that the importance of it changes. But let me put it in perspective for you. If I was born and raised in Westminster, Maryland, I'm a teenager, and I'm also African American. So this could have been me or any of you. A lot of kids push away the fact that racism is happening in this community, and it's still very much relevant. I went to Northwest Middle School, and then when high school came, I moved to an inner city school called St. Francis Academy. And me going to a school in this county, I have seen and heard things that involve race, and in fact, that is pretty much all that is talking about. Lynching still happens in our community, just in different forms. And memorializing, and this memorial service could be a change to many things. Thank you all, and have a blessed rest of your day.
Thank you, Jordan, for being here with us tonight and for that important perspective. Very often we forget, and when we're thinking about our own problems, you know, that our young folks are grappling with all of these issues as well. And thank you so much for stating that so beautifully, Jordan. We're going to move on to a bit of ceremony. Two members of our Coalition Steering Committee are going to light some candles for Townsend Cook. Jesse Harrington and Clyde Johnson.
I was asked to share some of the symbolism of the table. Our remembrance table this evening is draped in a black mud fabric. And when we look at the mud cloth, it symbolizes a protective spirit. So Africans think that when you wrap a person in it, they're protected. We know that that night he was not protected. So tonight we bring protection to the table. On top of that is a chest in which we put in those things that we treasure. Tonight it's empty because he has nothing to treasure. The flowers symbolize the number of years that he lived. So between 20 and 21, so we have 21 flowers on the table. The candles are white to symbolize purity. But also on the table is a reliquary box. Many of you know what a reliquary is. In many traditions, particularly spiritual traditions, a reliquary box holds relics. Sometimes it's fabric, sometimes it's hair, or it's the bones of a person who's deceased. I found out that I'm from the Dakota people, and they build reliquaries. As a kid, I wanted to be a mortician, and I never knew the fascination. But in my DNA, it is about the protection and the service of those who've passed on. So for tonight, I handmade this reliquary box. Bronze. On the top is inlaid of wood because he was hung from a white cedar tree. So there's wood there. And inside that reliquary box, a couple of us were able to go over to the potter's field, a moment to reflect, to think. Pam and Aaron and I, we talked to Jeff. We talked about history. We saw all those who were laid and the tombstones that were there for them with their names. There was no tombstone for him. So tonight, this reliquary rests upon a piece of broken granite because he deserves to have his name remembered. And in the box, there is dirt from the potter's field.
Thank you, Clyde, and thank you for this beautiful celebration of Mr. Cook's life and remembrance of how he died. Next, I'd like to invite Roxana Harlow, another member of our Coalition Steering Committee, to come forward for the next part of this ceremony.
Good evening. Tonight we'll participate in an old African tradition of pouring libation. There'll be 3 times that I'll pour, and with each I'll invite you to say Ashe, meaning so let it be. It's the power behind all things in the universe. Today we gather at this moment as a people who believe in unity, equity, fairness, and justice. We believe in harmony and balance in the universe. We gather as people who cannot change the wrongs and tragedies of the past, but we believe in a path to right and the restoring of dignity. We gather as one today, pushing past our differences, our genders, our races, our economics, our educations, and all labels used to separate, cast down, and destroy. We gather at a moment convinced that we have a common humanity that bridges many divides. We come convinced that life nor death, that things past, present, or yet to come, that no power or laws created can separate us from true justice, who created us to be one. We gather at this moment reflecting on a troubled past, a history of enslavement, brutality, and lynching, a shallow promise of freedom camouflaged by segregation and the inhumane and unequal treatment that was law. We gather in the shadow of the resilience and resistance of our ancestors, knowing that the uniting of community tonight in the city of Westminster in Carroll County, Maryland, means traveling down the painful historical road that led to the traumatic passage of Townsend Cook in the year 1885 at the hands of brutal lynchers. We gather to invite healing and safe passage to him. We offer libation poured this day upon the earth for this ancestor who left us at the prime of his life at the age of 21, having not fulfilled his potential, but that his death invites unification today among all of us. We pour this to nourish this ground, that a seed of hope rises in healing power between people of the African diaspora and the descendants of Europeans and those who took the life of Townsend Cook. We pour and say together, Ashe. We pour the second offering in gratitude for all ancestors who survived the Middle Passage, stayed faithful to the ethics of love, although enslaved, yet managed to maintain their dignity in the face of physical and psychic violence and forged the building of the mighty nation. We ask the ancestors to gather their spirits around Townsend Cook this day and call him into our remembrance, having not known him, yet we are connected as each of us is intertwined with humanity. We pour and say together, we pour the balance of this gourd upon the earth in ritual libation for unity, for peace, for understanding, for healing, for the end of racism, the end of brutality, the end of violence, the end of poverty, the end of misogyny, the end of all forms of prejudice, bias, hate, and unjust laws in the name of justice for all. Together, we say, I'm sorry, I just want to say one thing, that libation reading was written by Clyde Johnson, and so I want to give acknowledgement to his wonderful words.
We've heard from quite a few members of the Carroll County Coalition this evening. I want to recognize a couple folks who are also in the coalition in the audience. Mr. Russell Dick is here, and I mentioned before Kevin Dayhoff, who does not have a speaking role in the program, but if you want to have a chat with Kevin about Townsend Cook, he'll be very happy to talk with you about it. But Roxana and Jack, who you've already met, are two of our co-chairs of the coalition, and I'm now going to invite up the third co-chair, for some words of remembrance. Aaron Snell.
Usually, words of remembrance are given at a memorial service to commemorate the life of the person who has recently died. There is much about the life of Townsend Cook that we don't know, since he lived so long ago. And though we hope to learn more by locating descendants of his relatives, there are some things we can know and affirm today about Townsend Cook. We know he was a son and a brother. We know he had hopes, dreams, and aspirations for his life. He experienced love and loneliness, joy and disappointment. He knew laughter and he knew tears. We know this because he was human, as we are, cared for, loved, and valued by family and friends. We recognize and uphold the inherent worth and dignity of Townsend Cook that no lynching mob can take away. We know that Townsend Cook carried within him a spark of the divine, which also dwells within us. Townsend Cook's life was cut short with so much living left undone. It's difficult to face the truth of his lynching, to consider the terror, the fear, the loneliness, and the suffering he had to bear in the last day of his life. The truth of racial violence perpetrated on Townsend Cook by our white community is something we might rather push aside, dismiss with words of "that was then so long ago," or justify with concentrating on an alleged crime using words of unfounded accusation, or deny with silence. May those of us of European descent be brave enough today to face the truth of Townsend's lynching and the racial terror perpetuated by the hands of our white ancestors. Truth-telling will begin the task of binding what is broken and repairing what we destroyed. We are called to be witnesses for justice and bearers of light in places where racism and prejudice hide within our society, our systems and structures, and within ourselves. We remember Townsend Cook because we need to know and speak the truth. It's imperative that we all do so, especially white people living in a racially unjust society where the trauma of racism continues to do harm. We remember our connection to Townsend Cook, to the victims of racial terror in all times and places, to black and brown bodies imprisoned unjustly yesterday and today. We remember because we are inextricably bound together in our humanity. None of us are well or whole when some of us are harmed. As you go this evening at the end of our service, please take a carnation with you. May it serve to remind you of your connection to Townsend Cook and the call to speak the truth, seek justice, and live lives of love.
Thank you, Erin, very much. As I stood on the side, I recognized two more members of our steering committee, so I don't want to let them go unnamed. I had a direct view to Jim Kuntz from McDaniel College and Marty Kuchma from St. Paul's United Church of Christ. And if you think we're done with members of our steering committee, next, I would like to call up former president for many years of the Carroll County NAACP, who was preceded by her husband, who was president of the Carroll County NAACP. We have a family lineage going. Ms. Jean Lewis, who is going to sing for us the Black National Anthem. Lift every voice and sing.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven rings with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling seas. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has brought us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn has died, felt in the steady beat, have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over the way that with tears have been waters. We have come treading the path through the blood of the slaughtered. From the gloomy past till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever or in the path we pray. Least our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Least our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadows beneath thy hand, may we forever stand. To our God, true to our native land.
It appears that we're going to be closing just in time. Two more people to thank, one of whom is on our steering committee. As you take a carnation with you, think of Lisa McCurrick, one of our Carroll County public school teachers, who is also on the Carroll County Coalition. I'd also like to thank Jake Fine, recently graduated from McDaniel College, for being our musical accompaniment tonight. And for any of you who are interested in the work of our county coalition and the work of the Maryland Lynching Memorial Project, at the bottom of your program is the website for the Maryland Coalition. Our county coalition has a page on that website, so you can find out what's happening here. We've had 2 public meetings so far. We will be holding more of those, and we thank everyone who came to the first 2, and we hope you'll continue to come out to events like this. In the fall, we hope to be doing a full soil collection, and we are partnered, as you see, with the Equal Justice Initiative in addition to the Maryland Lynching Memorial Project. If you've seen the movie Just Mercy or read the book Just Mercy, they're written by the director of the Equal Justice Initiative, Brian Stevenson. And many of us have had the opportunity to go to the 2 museums in Montgomery, Alabama, where the photos on your program were taken that speak to the sheer epidemic of lynching that happened in this country in the years prior to the Civil War and following the Civil War, and as you heard, have taken different forms as we move into the present. And the other museum, which tells the story of the mass incarceration of people of color from slavery until now. So if you have a chance, now that things are opening up, at least go to the Equal Justice Initiative website for their museums. And if you find yourself in the South, please take a trip to those museums. It will leave you with a feeling you will never forget and a commitment to do something. So please join us as we move into the future with this work. As I said, we're going to do a soil collection. There will be a marker in a year or 2 in front of the jail indicating exactly what happened here, how Townsend Cook was lynched. And we welcome your participation and tell others about this work. It's incredibly important that as a community we come together and heal. We know that while we weren't here 136 years ago, it's estimated that approximately 50% of the citizens of Westminster either participated in or watched what was going on. That's a lot of healing that has to happen. So as you go off into the night, think about what we did here. Thank you to everyone who participated. And thank you all very, very much for coming out. We look forward to seeing you again in the future. Have a great evening and be safe going home.